Hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Vijf Vragen, or Five Questions as we would say in English. This is our podcast featuring the people of the Netherlands' diplomatic network here in the US. We're talking with the diplomats and policy officers about the strong bonds between the United States and the Netherlands, as well as our diplomatic work in the US. We're focusing on the collaborations between our two countries that make our relationship a partnership that works. I'm Jeff Alenak from the Embassy's Communications Office, and today I'm talking with Zulema Erasmus, the Minister Plenipotentiary from Aruba. I always trip over that, forgive me, Zulema. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Jeff. It is indeed Minister Plenipotentiary.
Minister Plenipotentiary. I always trip over that a little bit. I asked you to join me today to talk about your role as the Minister Plenipotentiary from Aruba. But before we find ourselves in the sunshine of that discussion, I'd like to start with a more basic question. What's your background and how'd you end up at the embassy?
So I was born and raised in Aruba. I have a master's degree in international relations. I have been for 20 years now a civil servant for the government of Aruba. I started in economic affairs, in charge of foreign economic affairs. I have held different positions in Aruba. I have worked at the Department of Foreign Affairs. I have worked for an Aruban minister as a personal secretary. Then I switched as the Deputy Permanent Secretary of the Council of Ministers, which is the highest decision-making body in Aruba. And my last position was where I started as the head of division of foreign economic relations and Deputy Director of the Department of Economic Affairs. And how did I wind up here? So Aruba is very small, and I think my experience as a civil servant in Aruba, your work gets known very quickly, and I was the right candidate for this cabinet for this position.
Okay, well, welcome. What is the difference between a minister plenipotentiary and an ambassador?
So I am the representative for Aruba. We already have an ambassador in the US for the Kingdom of the Netherlands. And as a representative of Aruba, the government of Aruba chose the position, the name of Minister Plenipotentiary, so that I can represent the interests of Aruba better in this position.
Okay, okay. That leads to a question I'll ask in a little bit. What do you see as the most important aspect of the diplomatic relationship between Aruba and the United States today? And how do you work to strengthen that bond?
Yeah, so as a small island, there are many different aspects that are important within a diplomatic relations, because any success, any opportunities that we grab can have a positive impact, a large positive impact in the Aruban in the Aruban community. So if we see the diplomatic relations, you have the economic aspect, you can have the security aspect, health, education, culture, climate change. So any part of that diplomatic relations is important for Aruba. There is not one more important than the other. So what I try to do is to seek opportunities for the Aruban community to connect U.S. institutions with Aruban stakeholders, to let those stakeholders in Aruba grab those opportunities.
Is there one of those that is at the top of your list? You named several areas there.
Well, if I take this week, which what I am working on this week are collaborations or possible collaborations between U.S. education, top education institutions, and Aruba and the government of Aruba to provide in-state tuition for Aruban students.
Oh, so in-state. So if you're from Aruba, you could come to the U.S. and get in-state tuition?
So what we try to do, we try to motivate Aruban students to also look towards the U.S. As an option for higher education. And what Aruba has been negotiating with different top education institutions is to provide in-state tuitions to Aruban students so that it can be more affordable.
Okay, and that's at the state-by-state level, right?
That is state-by-state level, correct.
So that's 50 departments of state education you might have to deal with or work with at any...
Not really, because we tend to focus this for the states that are more, that we have more affinity with. For example, Florida. A lot of Arubians go to Florida for vacation.
Wait a minute. Arubans have to go to Florida for vacation? That doesn't seem right to me. I don't.
We love to go to Florida for vacation, to Orlando, to Miami.
Okay.
And so many Arubians know that part of the U.S. and the students and youngsters tend to look towards Florida as a first choice to study.
Okay. Nobody's going up north to Maine or North Dakota where it's really snowy.
We have 95 students at this moment with an Aruba student loan all over the U.S.
95.
In Tennessee, in Oklahoma, in Massachusetts, everywhere. But the largest part is in Florida.
Now, how big is Aruba in terms of population-wise? What are we talking about?
We have a population of 110,000. A very small island in the southern part of the Caribbean region.
Yeah, it's like almost like a county or even a small city here. So to have 95 from that sounds like a pretty big ratio. So.
Yes, we have around 1,500 students studying in higher education. Of that 1,500 students, we have 1,000 abroad. So 2/3 study abroad, most of them in the Netherlands.
Okay.
Right now, around 95 in the US, and we're trying to increase it.
Aruba is part of the Kingdom of the Netherlands. How does your position as Minister Plenipotentiary allow you to navigate the complexities of representing Aruba's interest in Washington while coordinating with the Netherlands?
So before I answer your question, I have to really explain where Aruba fits within the Kingdom of the Netherlands.
Oh, please do.
So Aruba is an autonomous country within the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the same as Curaçao, the same as in Sint Maarten, the same as the Netherlands. And this means that Aruba can mostly govern itself. On almost all the issues, Aruba can govern itself, only except for 3 subjects. That is foreign policy, the nationality, and the defense.
What do you mean by nationality?
The Dutch nationality, the Dutch passport.
Oh, okay.
So those 3 matters are on the level of the kingdom.
So you have a Netherlands passport, not an Aruban passport.
Correct. Okay. We have the Dutch passport, the European passport, and those matters are decided upon in The Hague. So if you take the foreign policy, it's set up in The Hague through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, of course with the input of each Caribbean country within the kingdom. And when we go to the embassy, within the implementation of the foreign policy, normally each embassy within the kingdom is the eyes and ears of the kingdom as a whole, including the Caribbean countries. But the U.S., our lifestyle in Aruba is so intertwined with the U.S. that the government of Aruba sees it important to send a representative of Aruba at the embassy. So basically, I'm the extra eyes and ears for Aruba here at the embassy. And the fact that I am also part of the political department here at the embassy makes the communication with The Hague and with Aruba, with the U.S., more easy.
Okay. What efforts are being made to increase trade and investment between Aruba and the United States? Are there any specific sectors you're focusing on?
So the U.S. is Aruba's most important trade partner. We, in Aruba, we import almost everything we consume. I've heard percentages of 97% of what we consume is imported. And as our number 1 trade partner, most of the products do come from the U.S. Another point is our tourism sector. The tourism sector is the most important economic sector in Aruba. Around 90% of our GDP, directly and indirectly. So that already shows how important the U.S. is for Aruba. But Aruba needs to diversify. We need to diversify. We have been talking about it for years. We have been taking small steps to try to stimulate other economic activities that can become economic sectors, other economic sectors. And we have an election coming up in December in Aruba. And you see that all political parties do talk about diversification. We have had different sectors that we have mentioned in the past, but I see more and more political parties put attention to energy transition and to the creative industry. So I think in the coming months, it's going to be clear for example, within energy transition, to attract new technologies next to wind and solar power, maybe to do with ocean, deep sea cooling, wave technology, but also within the creative industry to start promoting Aruba as a film location. So those new objectives will affect my work here to try to promote new sectors, new economic activities for Aruba.
So your energy that you use now, is it largely wind or solar, or is it a real mix?
It's a mix of fossil fuel, wind, and solar.
Is there one area of energy transition that you're focusing on? Is it wind or solar? Or?
Up to now, Aruba has been focusing on wind and solar power.
Okay.
And Aruba only wanted proven technology. But with new political parties, there is this tendency to think, next to proven technology, let's try new technology. So objectives may change with a new cabinet.
Right. Okay, I understand, yeah. I'd imagine, too, that the wave technology I see a little bit, it's almost a perpetual source, because you're surrounded by water. There's always waves, and the energy the electricity that it creates wouldn't have to travel far.
Yes, it can be wave technology, deep sea cooling, but also offshore wind power.
Yeah, deep sea cooling. Do you mean like putting server farms below the water? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm not an expert in it, but I know that there's been investment proposals in Aruba to use the cooler water in the deep ocean, in the depth of the sea, to be able to cool, like an air conditioning, to cool buildings and to cool houses.
Somehow you might bring it up, like geothermic maybe, or yeah, I understand. Okay. What do you see as the key areas of growth and collaboration between Aruba and the United States in the next 5 to 10 years, near future?
So if I start now, especially after the pandemic, Aruba has been implementing the country packages in collaboration with The Hague. These country packages are reforms that needs to be it needs to be done in Aruba. And most of these reforms will affect our good governance and transparency, safety and security, and also our business sector, deregulating the business sector, improving the ease of doing business. So I think what will happen is Aruba will be focusing internally to improve, to take actions to really guarantee these components. That is important for the Aruban community because, in my opinion, these components like good governance and safety and security, they're not guaranteed. And at the moment that you notice that they're gone, then it's too late. So Aruba will be focusing internally on this. And if I relate it to the collaboration, to the relation between Aruba and the U.S. within 5 to 10 years, I see Aruba becoming a best practice for democracy, for rule of law, for transparency, a best practice together with the guarantee that the Kingdom of the Netherlands offers, a best practice for any strategy that the U.S. may have towards the region.
Sounds like you have a lot on your plate.
And I'm excited. I'm glad every day to come to the embassy and work for the Kingdom of the Netherlands, especially for Aruba.
Okay. Is this your first time in the States, working in the States?
Yes, it is.
Is there any place that you want to go that you haven't had a chance to see yet?
You know, we've been coming to the U.S. for years.
Miami, right?
No, actually not. With my family, we always choose another state. So
You've probably been to more states than I've been to. Go ahead, tell me.
I've been to many states, but my favorite states are Colorado, Wyoming, Montana. Okay. So I think I'll go more often in that part of the country.
Is it the scenery that you like out there? Is that what it is?
It's the scenery. It's the down-to-earth feeling, the freedom. Yes, the robustness, even the nostalgia that I get about cowboys and and horses.
Do you see them out there? Are they still? I see the show Yellowstone every now and again.
Well, you feel the freedom.
You feel the freedom. Mm-hmm. Okay. Just one final question. I'm a big baseball fan. I'm sure you know, and it surprises me. Well, it doesn't surprise me. I know that there are quite a few Aruban baseball players that have been through the MLB, but to find out there's only 100,000 population to begin with, the per capita, that's pretty high. That's more professional baseball players than would come from my county, and I don't think there is one from my county in all the history. I can't think of one. Oh no, there's one right now. But nevertheless, what makes Aruban so good for producing baseball players?
I think it starts with the kids. Baseball is such a community sport in Aruba. It brings the community together. It brings the family together. And for kids, it's sometimes it's the only way to do sports. So there are so many kids involved in baseball. The pool is so large. I think that would be it.
Is that the biggest sport in Aruba, baseball?
Yes, it is.
Okay, soccer isn't even though you're part of the kingdom, soccer isn't that...
Soccer comes in a good second place.
Okay. Are you a baseball fan yourself? Have you been able to go to many Nats games or Orioles games?
Not yet.
Not yet. No, we got to get you there. I've only been to a few Orioles games this year, but I do enjoy baseball. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you again, Zulema, for joining me for this episode of Vijf Vragen. Though I might have asked a few more questions than 5. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. Please tell us what you think in the comments below, and be sure to click on the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next episode or the other videos we post on our YouTube channel. I'll be back behind the microphone next month with another member of the Dutch Diplomatic Network in the United States. Until then, you can keep up with our work on any of our social media channels: Facebook, X, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Just search for NL in the USA, and you can stay up to date on how the United States and the Netherlands have a partnership that works.
Thank you, Jeff. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Zulema.